Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission of Carroll County meeting for October 21st, 2025. And we establish a quorum.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Ms. Kirkner? Mr. Kane?
Here.
Mr. Huff?
Here.
Mr. Robertson?
Here.
Mr. Soyson? Mr. Lester?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon? Secretary Daly?
Here.
Mr. Soyson? Mr. Vice Chair, please let the record reflect that 6 members are present and we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the today's agenda?
Yes. Are there any amendments to it?
Any changes?
No.
I move we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the minutes, next item, number 5, the review and approval of the minutes for August 19th and September 16th. Any changes? Everybody had a chance to review? Take a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from August 19th and September 16th, 2025.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All approved. Okay, thank you. Next item, commission member reports. The commission chair, there's no report from Janice today. Any other members with a report? Commissioner Gordon's not here, so we'll let that go. Daphne, anything?
Yeah, I have just a few things. I wanted to just circle back around with you on 2 items that came up in previous meetings. You had requested a little bit more information on how the county and the towns kind of coordinate and collaborate. And we are working on sort of pulling that all together. It's a little bit more involved than just a brief overview. So we will have that for you at a future meeting. We can dive a little bit deeper into that. There's multiple facets to how we coordinate with the towns in various areas. The other item that I wanted to circle back around with you on is your request for information, more information about the landfill and their expansion plans, that sort of thing. I actually am going to be in a meeting next week to discuss the landfill master plan with Public Works and their consultant. So I'll be able to give you an update on that at a subsequent meeting once we get sort of the lay of the land for where things are currently. I do want to also provide you just a couple of updates on some solar projects. We've gotten a number of proposals in just recently, so I just wanted to keep you up to date on that. First, one project that had already gone through the initial review process. It's called Eckerd Road Solar. It was previously Red Barn Solar. They have filed their CPCN or Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. I think that's what that stands for. That's 25 acres at 1765 Eckerd Road. So they have filed for the CPCN with the Public Service Commission. There are 3 other projects that we've received for some initial review before they file their CPCN. There's a project called Carroll Ritchie Solar. It's 5 megawatts on Patapsco Road, just east of Carrollton Road. Carroll Highland Solar, which is 5 megawatts on Lawndale and Euler Roads. and Carroll Providence Solar, which is the largest proposal that we've received to date. That's 10 megawatts on Sykesville Road, just southeast of Gamber Road. So those will be moving through the environmental review phase of things prior to filing their CPCN. If you have specific questions about any of those, please let me or Chris know, and we can also send out links where you can view some additional information for those.
Daphne, is there a place we can go or see, or is there a way for us to track the number of these projects and where they are in process in terms of working their way through to become? I would just be curious to know, the extent to which these projects are being brought forward, and rather than piecemeal, is there a way for us to have whether it's an Excel spreadsheet that just says here they are and this is where it is in the process? I would like to just kind of, from a big picture standpoint, be able to know where they are and where they are in the process. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, it does. If you, let me look into how we can, the best way to make that available.
Let's keep it
whether
easy.
it's-
Like
yeah.
like I need to give you guys something else to do, right? It's just from a big picture standpoint, I think we all kind of need to know the magnitude of it, the number of acres, number of watts, and where they're located, and where they are in process, something like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does
It
anybody
does.
else?
It does. I just to add to that, I'd like to see a map as part of that, the visual, so we can see where these are
Yeah.
proposed and, how they may interact with, farms, with the ag pres, with all that stuff, particularly as we get into the 10-year plan and our discussions on growth and,
Right.
all those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have the data available. The question is what's going to be most useful for you to really understand the impact and where they are in the process,
Thank
as
you.
you said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so then my final thing is, I wanted to just briefly get your thoughts, and we can have a sort of lengthier discussion on this if we want. But I wanted to get your thoughts on, well, first of all, understand maybe how you, when you receive a project for review, how you familiarize yourself with the site. Do you make site visits? Is a site visit something that would be of interest to you all? Thoughts on maybe coordinating that? We're looking at how we can make sure that there is a good connection with the things that are being reviewed and kind of an on-the-ground understanding of maybe the context. So, like I said, this could be a lengthier discussion if we want, but if you have any initial thoughts on maybe what you do now or what you'd like to do in the future, I'd love to hear those at this time.
I do drive-bys. I like to see, because I'm not familiar with everything out there, but I like particularly interested when I go through or go past and, the traffic, which seems to always be a concern with a lot of things, and then the neighborhoods and how they're laying out, where the proposals are. So that's just me. And then all the detail that you provide already is already good. What the scope of the project is, who the developers are, things like that. That's always helpful. So I wouldn't mind. I don't think personally, I wouldn't need a site visit for everything, but some of the larger projects, some of the more impactful projects, I think it would be helpful.
I would second that, in that, I think it would be helpful for us to see not just what's being proposed and the sites where those are, whether it's the employment campus land. I think it also would be important for us to take a look at okay, so this got approved, and now it's up, now it's in. We did this this happened 3 or 4 years ago. Let's see what it looks like.
It's like an after action.
Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, like, I think the mixed use property that went up on 26 out there by Century, I think we all ought to, you know, not that there ought to be this group think mentality up here. We all should have our own opinions. But I think seeing what other, do you see what I see kind of thing? After the fact, would not be a bad idea for us. But again, I would echo what Michael's saying in that I don't think we need to see everything, but, you know, I would encourage you all as a staff to, and if we could find a date when we could all do this together, encourage staff to say, hey, we got a little tour, we're gonna go here. Because again, I try to see as many of these things before we vote on them as I can. I don't get to all of them though.
Sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say, you know, I was going to say, you know, normally I look at the projects, look at the information that we have. I look on Google Earth,
Yeah.
try to look at it. If it's a real impactful thing, like the mixed use down there, I actually drove down there and looked at it, drove down in the development down behind and stuff like that. And that's a great idea that, you know, a project that we didn't agree with that ended up going through, and we all had some issues with the kind of project. And especially with, you know, now the other stuff that's went on around it in the last year or so, it probably wouldn't hurt for us to go take a group look at it one day, just kind of schedule everybody to meet up there, because it's kind of central for most of us, I guess, kind of. But that would be good to see, because, you know, I drive by, I noticed every one of the apartments is rented right away, and like 3 or 4 of the commercial units
Kind
are
of easing in.
filled,
Yep.
which is kind of what everyone
That's what
complained
we
about.
thought. That's what we.
So, yeah, it could give us ideas for maybe things we might need to change in some of the zoning, so, yeah.
I think it's a good idea. Thanks for bringing it up.
So we'll, it sounds like maybe already everybody sort of does their own reconnaissance on projects, but maybe for some larger projects, we could coordinate something, and if you're available to join us for a site visit, we can do that. And we'll also do some very specific efforts to try to get out to sites like that mixed-use project on Liberty Road for a little bit of an after-action, and just see what the perspectives are that we might want to try to layer into future either master plan issues or text amendments or what have you.
Well, you know, as I think it looks nice when you drive by it. Of course, we don't know what it looks like from behind. I haven't heard, you know, obviously we haven't heard anything from the people that live there now. But, you know, it's one of the problems we have. We build commercial stuff in areas that doesn't fill, and that's a problem. Why are we not bringing those kind of businesses into Carroll County? So, yeah.
All right. Thank you. To be continued. And that's all I have for administrative matters. So then we have
Any
extensions.
extensions?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
We have one extension this month. This is called, it's a site plan called Liberty Road Crossing. The file number is S160018, down in Commissioner District 4. It's in Taylorsville. So I'm not sure if any of you recall this project. It's a planned business center along with self-storage on the site. They have come back to us, and they are working through while they have this extension, they are working through a new plan for that property. Same type of use, but different plan. So that's the reason for the extensions. They're keeping that approval active while they go about pursuing a new plan for the site. So it is the 7th extension for this project. That's all.
I wonder if the purchase of, I always refer to it as the Rooney property for the horse training center has anything to do with that.
They started the new project back in 21, I think.
Okay.
So
Maybe not.
maybe not. Maybe they knew something.
Okay, all right, thank you. BZA cases,
Morning.
Morning.
I have 3 BZA cases. All 3 of them have been found consistent with the Carroll County Master Plan as amended in 2019. Case 6580 is a request for the conditional use of storage lot for commercial vehicles. The property is located at 931 West Liberty Road in Eldersburg. The property is in the agricultural zone. Case 6588 is a request for the conditional use of commercial kennel 4 to 6 dogs. The property is located at 1625 Wakefield Valley Road in New Windsor, also in the county's agricultural zone. And then case 6590 is a request for a conditional use of religious establishment. Property is located at 1900 West Liberty Road, Westminster, also located in the agricultural zone. That is the South Carroll Swim Club. Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? You always have the other. No other updates? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item number 8. We're going to hear from folks in New Windsor. The Master Plan Municipal Planning presentation by New Windsor.
So as everybody gets set up here, I'll just remind you that we've been hearing from all the different municipalities in an effort to kind of better understand what their plans are and how that might be supported through the county master plan. So today we have folks from the town of New Windsor. We have Mark Schultz, who's the Planning Commission Chair. Dave Hoffman, who is the Town Council Liaison to the Planning Commission, and Drew Strine, who is the Planning Commission Vice Chair. And I'll let them all introduce themselves a little bit more.
Good morning. I'm Mark Schultz. I've been with the Planning Commission for, almost 20 years and been chair for a little over 10. Am I right?
Yep. Good morning. I am Dave Hoffman. I am on the New Windsor Town Council and I am liaison to the Planning Commission. I was formerly on the Planning Commission, chaired the Planning Commission, and before I moved into the capacity of the Town Council member.
Drew Strawn, Vice Chair, been on the Planning Commission 11 years.
So, thanks, Daphne, for reaching out to us and giving us the opportunity to chat a little bit. This is, again, I've been almost 2 decades, and this is my first time of coming up here to see everybody. I recognize a couple names, recognize some faces from online. So, again, good morning.
Good morning.
This has been a challenge putting this plan together. We have citizen planners. We don't have any professional planners on staff in the town of New Windsor. And when we went through this exercise, Dave and I were on the Planning Commission back in the last time this was done, and it was done in the late 2000s, aughts, and then amended and finalized in 2010. So it was time to update this, and we began this exercise right in the middle of COVID. We, at the time, thought we would be having the same assistance as we originally had, where we essentially, a nice lady, Barb Lilly, essentially was putting together our plan, and we were sitting there as advisors going through. Turns out it wasn't quite the same way this time, and we did have some struggles at the beginning. First off, dealing, as all of us, with the communications of COVID and trying to do everything remotely. And then secondly, trying to cobble this together. So we took the last plan and have just taken that and rolled it forward with updates and removed what we felt was not necessary. But not having the keen eye of having a planner. It's again, citizen planners doing this. So what we put together, and we are pretty close to the end. We figure maybe 1 or 2 more sessions. Probably by the end of the year, we will have finished this and have it to a point of turning it over to the town council for their approval, and then the public hearing. But New Windsor, because there is so much of the ag preservation around us, growth opportunities there are not many. I see one name here, and then there is this one opportunity that we are recommending to the town council. We've already taken a vote on the planning commission, and we're putting it into our plan. We're expanding our growth area boundary for a piece of property that's not quite 200 acres outside of town. But maintaining the small town feel has been what we've been chatting about. It's throughout the plan, and we don't really see that changing. We've got one 4 home site in town that hasn't been developed yet. We've got the old firehouse is being turned into workforce housing. And the old historic Dealman Inn is still sitting down there. We have not had a developer. If anybody has any recommendations, that would be great. We could point in our direction. But growth is not something that's really mentioned much in our plan. Physically, there are constraints, and there's just not the opportunities, and there's not really the impetus coming from anywhere that we're hearing in the community. Let's see here. We do have 2 growth area boundary changes. The one property we've already mentioned, and there's another area that we're actually removing from our plan that's a little over 100 acres that they're indicating they want to put into ag preservation. On the horizon, we have potential annexation of these couple hundred acres that we've added into the growth area boundary. Springdale School down in New Windsor. And I know the county had a middle school down there that they're now leasing that, and then there's a property, the Brethren Center, that has been purchased by Springdale 6-7 years ago. They have come to us initially chatting about a master plan, a $100 million master plan that they're looking down there to have a campus looking like McDaniel. They've got a long way to go to be able to achieve that. So they're going back to the drawing board, and they need to have some interactions with the county and the town. But that is, that is out there. They put some effort into that. And there's a small 10-acre property outside of town that's been sitting there for over 10 years, and they still have not had a developer on that. Then I mentioned about the workforce housing that we're doing for the old firehouse, and then the Dealman property. To no surprise, and I'm sure you hear this from the other municipalities, we have infrastructure limitations. Our water sources right now, we're working to come up with some redundant sources closer to town. We do not have the capacity right now to be able to take on either the additions at the school or with the property that we've just brought into the growth area boundary. That would significantly change our water needs if we were to go forward with those. So that's something that we're going to have to go arm in arm with the developers on. And then the wastewater management. We're working on the ENR upgrade to the plant, but again, it's the same issue with capacity. If you start adding 30 or 40% with these developments, we aren't in a position to be able to, A, ask the citizens to do that on their own, and B, to take that on without significant assistance from the developer, and I assume the county, state, I don't know how that would work. That's what the town council gets to deal with that. Our biggest problem in town is traffic, so it's nice to have that as a small problem. It's a small town with one main road through a 31, but that's occasionally being addressed. And public schools are always a bit of an issue. Since we lost the middle school, there's still grumbling that comes from that. The Springdale School is a private school. There aren't a whole lot of people in the county that can afford to send their kids there, so they have a different clientele coming in. And as I mentioned, we've had some challenges in developing this plan. One is not having a planner on staff. We've had a lot of turnover with the staff that liaison from the county. We've had, by my count, at least 4 people working with us on this plan. So when you don't have the continuity of knowing where you've come from, that makes it a little bit of a challenge. Those are the comments that I've got about the plan. So the timing is we're close to having that will then roll forward. Any other comments from Dave or Drew you'd like to add?
Well, just like you mentioned, continuity of support from the county. Whenever we get a new planner liaison, they have to get up to speed to what we are working on. And it's a lot of like spinning our wheels, it appears. That's kind of seems to be the main issue, I think, that we're approaching the planning commission. So I guess a lot of turnover in the planning office, county-wise, so I think that's our biggest issue. We always had support, with the last comprehensive plan renewal, and I guess we're just missing that this time.
Yeah, so if I could just jump in and kind of add a little bit more context to that. In the past, so the comprehensive planning staff is divided up. Each planner has a region that they work with, usually 1 or 2 towns within that area. In the past, in the way past, that liaison planner actually worked with the town to draft the what were at the time municipal and environs plans, and those were actually jointly adopted between the town and the county because it covered municipal things within the municipal boundaries as well as unincorporated areas outside of them. Over the years, that relationship has sort of changed, and I'm still trying to kind of get a handle on how the county liaison planner role is executed in different municipalities. So obviously, certain municipalities have planning staff, New Windsor doesn't. But to the extent that we can review how that liaison planner role functions in each municipality and potentially offer some additional support where it's needed, that's something that we're looking into. And certainly, as you guys, I know you're kind of at the tail end of your plan development process, but we would be more than happy to take a look at where you are now and offer any support that we can. I know we've provided some mapping support, and if there's anything else that we can do to try to make sure all the bases are covered and provide any additional assistance, we'd definitely be available to help you out with that.
Thank you. And Abigail and Javier are taking care of getting us the mapping, and that has been great. That is beyond our ability. I can't do that with Word. But we, in putting this together, there are obviously being aware of what state requirements might be out there and county, and without the continuity, it's a real challenge for Javier to just jump right into this in 4 or 5 months to be able to help us with this.
Yep.
But I guess I'll ask, by the time this plan gets to you, be gentle with us, and we can, because I don't know how the clock and meter works on this, because I know there's not a policeman that comes around and says, "Oh, it's been 10 years, you got to redo your plan." But this next process, I'm going to stay on the planning commission long enough to try to help get that started, because somebody has to do it. I've taken it on in my retirement, and I just don't have the background and the expertise to be able to say, oh, we got to look at this or this. 2007, is that still current?
Right.
So,
yeah.
and that's a challenge. And so I know it will eventually come to you to see the plan, and then we can work to correct it for the next time. And meanwhile, we'll do our best to point out what's sitting out there. And that's one of the nice things about a smaller municipality. We don't have as many things going on. So it does stand out for us. But that Springdale property, that's a big deal. For not just us, but for the county.
Sure.
They're talking $100 million.
It's an investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's huge.
Yeah, that is huge, and it's aggressive, and frankly, not a whole lot there for the town. So it's something we'll have to work through together, and beyond our scope. And the same thing with the property that's coming in. That's a big jump for us. That would be like a 40-50% growth of the town. But it doesn't say we don't do it. It's just that we'll keep an eye on it. Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, the big elephant in the room is a quarry. What,
Quarry.
yeah. Like that huge wall when you go through your town that you see. What kind of neighbors have they been, and could they be any help to you for your water supply? I mean, the deeper they go, the more water they're finding. What's the chance that they could help you? I mean, they're impacting that town in a huge, huge way.
So I'll jump in on that. So as a whole, Lehigh, now Heidelberg, has been a good neighbor to the town. We do have a agreement with them for water when they transition the quarry into what they've dug and what they haven't, and it becomes a hole with a lot of water in it. New Windsor has, first rights to that water.
That could be years and years and years.
That could be years and years and years, right, and expect it to be. So there's, we have a hook in there, but that's not going to help us in the near future with our water. New Windsor has ample water and good water, and we're always looking for redundant sources. Our main water source is 5 miles out the road in what we've determined to be over 100-year-old piping. So, we have a long-term project ahead of us to replace that at a cost a few years ago that was $8 to $10 million. We realize that by the time we do that project, it's going to be higher than that. So we are looking within closer proximity to the town to find water sources. So water is certainly an issue. Wastewater is a much bigger deal for the town. Having the capacity and having the allocations from the state to be able to have additional capacity is a bigger issue. But back to the Heidelberg Cement, we do work with them. We've transitioned some property between us for ball fields and things like that. But there's not a lot that they can do for us for providing water other than in the future. The property that they own around town, we're certainly not able to drill wells or do anything like that because they're pulling their limestone out. That's not something that's going to happen right now. We do work with them and talk with them very frequently about their operations and, the trucks through town and things like that, that the town has to deal with. But as far as, water resources and things like that, I think we have run up against what we can do and have our hooks in for the future.
And I know you've spent a lot of money on your wastewater treatment plant over the years. Is it at capacity now, or?
So, New Windsor is allotted at 115,000 gallons a day, and we're allowed to go to 80% of that without having to put a plant into place. So we're getting close to our 80%, and we are now looking to upgrade to the ENR, the Enhanced Nutrition Reduction type system, and there's grant money available, but it depends on how much the higher allotment that you try to get, the less grant money is. So we're trying to find that sweet spot that will allow some growth within town, but not cost the taxpayers millions and millions. Right now, we've been working with our engineering GMB to figure that sweet spot and what type of grant money that we would be eligible for, and we're zoning in on it, but we're still looking at probably a $14 million upgraded plant with a bill of about $4 million to the taxpayers. You know, we have only 700 houses in town. When you start doing the math, you know, 4,700,000 people paying that off. That's a big commitment to make. So we're working that as we speak. That's one of our top agenda items right now is moving to that ENR.
Thank you.
So the 200 acres, is that zoned agricultural?
Yeah, yeah.
Currently, yes.
Is the plan there for housing or commercial or?
Housing.
Housing.
Residential, yeah.
And a request to rezone that from 3 to R3 to R3.5, which would allow some more housing on there,
Okay.
and also opportunities for additional state funding.
And that would be supported by wells, I'm assuming, not the public water.
Well, it would be town water, and that'd be something that would have to be solved as to where that would come from, especially because it's very close to the quarry. But my understanding is, because there was the initial discussions to bring the property into the growth area boundary. There has not yet been a request for the annexation because we have to go through that process.
Okay.
But my understanding is that that would be then attached to the town water. And, you know, there's been some thoughts about how to do that looping, but right now, there's not the capacity in the town. We'd have to.
Right.
Is Snyder Summit built out? Is Snyder Summit built out?
Yes.
Yeah, it's completed.
When as far as Ag Pres goes, talking about from the county's perspective, Daphne, do we not, in that most of these municipalities are designated growth areas, do we not in some way have a policy where we want to put some sort of loose halo around these towns so that we have these goals to reaching a certain number of acres under Ag Pres, but it doesn't make sense at all to hem in our DGAs by putting, I mean, we talked about doing a bypass, that came out really something, a bypass around one of our designated growth areas, and we can't even do it because we've got Ag Pres hemming in where we would, if we did it, and if we could find the funding, which we can't, but if we wanted to, we can't do a bypass because we've allowed that land to be placed under ag preservation. So, do we not have a strategy, or what is the county's position on that sort of thing? I mean, and when you apply, I'm asking multiple questions. When you apply for ag preservation designation, and you get that easement, I mean, do we have a say in, you know, this is not really where we would want this money spent? I mean, do we have a say in that?
Peter, I've long advocated, and can I answer some of that?
Please do, sure.
I'd like to answer some of that.
Okay.
For a long time, I've been advocating for not only the ag preservation, but the county as a whole to take a look at the corridors that we should be deeming off limits for ag pres, for commercial, industrial, and now for the lifeblood of some of the smaller towns.
That's right. That's right.
This is case in point.
Case in point.
And that basically has fallen on deaf ears.
Well,
Now, let me keep going with this. In the agricultural work group, and I have a report here that's not official yet, but I'm hoping out of this agricultural work group that somebody takes a hard look at where we are with AgPres and where we want to go with it. And why would we be putting farms under easement right along a major corridor for development? We've done that, and we should have known better.
Yep.
And I say that being part of the problem.
Well, and
Because,
you're,
you know-
Ralph, you're a great advocate, and I don't mean, I'm not, kissing your ring here. It is the case that I think you and I are like-minded on this, where we both are for this. We just want to see it more strategic in how it's implemented.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, strategic.
Okay.
And it's called planning. And we've missed the mark here on some of this stuff. And I'm hoping that in this master plan that we're putting together, that we take in consideration some of these things so that we don't get municipalities. And I mean, what I hear here, and don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing you, I'm not criticizing you, but it sounds to me like there's a plea for help here. You need some help with your planning. You need some expertise to come in and work with you. And I think it's incumbent upon us to help them do that. Daphne mentioned the municipality and county agreement, or however loose it is, but there was a commitment. When the rezoning took place years ago, there was a commitment that the county would work with the municipalities on things like this. And we've fallen short on some of this.
Okay.
So, there's a lot to look at in these. This is just the ag. We're looking at the housing, we're looking at commercial, industrial, we're looking at a whole lot of different things in this master plan update. And I'm hoping that some of this rings true when we come up with the final plan. And I'm glad you came. I really appreciate you came. But I think what you've done is highlighted some of the problems that we're seeing now in our county. And to get off my box again, but I'm seeing things happening in Carroll County now that we haven't seen before. Carroll County has been, I call, rediscovered. We're this jewel that sits here around a lot of chaos. And all of a sudden now, this jewel's being tapped into. We're being invaded by all kinds of different things. Solar is one that just disturbs me greatly. But we're finding agricultural groups coming into the county and finding it very attractive to come here from out of state and buy up land and farm here. That's one side of the coin. We're also seeing multiple groups coming in and trying to find every available piece of ground for solar, which kind of flies in the face of what we've been trying to do in our master plan, but we constantly get overruled by outside forces. And then the other, of course, is the developers, and they're going to be coming because we're ripe for the picking. And I think you have highlighted that here. I really appreciate you coming, and I love New Windsor. As the greatest little town in the world with good people there and tremendous history. And it's going to be hard to move forward with everything that's going on around you. So I think it's incumbent that we help them as much as we can. Thank you.
Yeah, I think New Windsor represents a lot of the issues that other municipalities are having.
Yes.
Water is always the top of the list, and water's a restrictor for a lot of things, commercial, industrial, housing, whatever. So it's good to see that I guess it's good to see, maybe that's a bad word, good, but you recognize that as one of your number one limitations, and you're figuring out a way to deal with that. I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and it's a desert, and it keeps on growing and growing and growing. I'm like, how the hell where's the water coming from? So they, the Colorado River obviously is one source, and Lake Mead and all that stuff, but you still gotta pump it, you still gotta get it there, you still have to recycle it, you still have to have a process, and they've spent millions of dollars to make that happen, to sustain and expand their growth of that city. That it's unbelievable when you're flying in to see how, the once footprint of the Vegas Strip is now, it's huge. I don't even know the acreage anymore, but it's huge. And how do they support that? So I was doing some research about how they did their funding, and it's bonds, and it's taxation, and it's all those revenue sources, and partnership with developers and things like that. So I think, Carroll County's not like Vegas. I don't want to turn a Main Street in Westminster into the Westminster Strip, but
No, New Windsor, maybe.
New Windsor, maybe. Yeah. But there's opportunity.
What happens in New Windsor stays in New Windsor.
There's opportunity to figure this out and to work together and come up with ways to file for grant money, file for whatever resources, economic resources that may be available, and go after it and try to solve the problem to help you get out of the stuck mode of you want to grow a little bit, get that you don't want to be explosive, but you got 200 acres here. Water's going to be an issue. Working with the developers, certainly a course of action and how that's all going to play out. But then the timing of all this could be assisted with, grant money or taxes. God, I'm not running for office up there, but it's if you want to pay, you got to play, right? So if you want to have some nice things, that the new homeowners are going to have to pay some money to get some water relief or whatever, however that would work. But yeah, I'm writing a bunch of notes, and they're very similar to other municipalities that have presented. And you got challenges, and the county, agree with what Daphne was saying and recognizes that they need to help, and I think they are here to help, and I'm sure she will get the help you need.
Absolutely.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
guys.
Good luck.
Hold on, public comment.
Oh, public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the reminder.
I was going to say, it seems to be a thing for chairs.
It is a thing. I'm going to circle it all the way down here, all the way through. Okay, item number 9 is the Westminster Annexation 89, the KNIT Center.
KNIT Center Park.
I didn't know whether to say KNIT Center or KNIT.
I'd be happy to purchase one of the petitioner,
Sure.
council for petitioner.
Sure.
Well, good morning. I'm Javier
Morning.
Toro, comprehensive planner. Ms. Claire Stewart, division manager, she's joining me. This is a petition for annexation that was received from the city of Westminster for KNIT Center Park condominium. The petition was forwarded from the property owners, the petitioners, KNIT Center Park Condominium Incorporated, House of Gums LLC, Covington Properties LLC, Inspire Services LLC, Cantori and Landauer Properties LLC, TLV LLC, and Militello Health Properties LLC. I am providing you a street view of the property so you get an idea where it's situated. The address is 531 Old Westminster Pike. This is the annexation plat. The property right now has 10 different office or suites in them with different purposes. The City of Westminster confirmed that the petitioners are requesting the annexation as a means of providing additional water services for 2 new uses. And I'll explain those uses as we move forward. Currently, the property is within the growth area boundary of the City of Westminster, and it is contiguous to the corporate limit of the city. The property is a total 1.47 acres, and as I mentioned, it is being requested so that for the 2 new uses to receive additional water services. And the 2 petitioners have filed building permits for new uses, which is a doctor's office and an adult daycare facility. Currently, the property is in the C2 or commercial medium intensity zoning district. The City of Westminster has committed themselves to placing the property in the B or business zone zoning areas, also a total of 1.47 acres. Considering that there is not a marked difference in zoning categories, there is no zoning waiver required for this property. Currently, as per the City of Westminster 2009 comprehensive plan, it has a designation of commercial. For the water and sewer, the property is, for the county, is in the W1 and S1, meaning that it's under the existing water service categories. And following the annexation, the 2 new uses on the property will have access to additional water allocation from the City of Westminster, and that's why we have the map here, just showing how the property is situated in both categories. From our behalf, we recommend that the city give public notice by posting the property prior to the date of the public hearing and notifying all adjoining property owners. Our findings are the following. A zoning waiver is not required as the permitted uses in the city is in the business zone and not substantially different from permitted uses in the county's commercial medium intensity zoning district. There is consistency with the 2009 City of Westminster Comprehensive Plan, as the annexation area is located within the city's municipal growth area, or the GAB. The proposed annexation will not overburden county facilities. And based on these findings, we recommend the Planning and Zoning Commission, you convey your support for the annexation to the Board of County Commissioners. This annexation will be presented to the Board of County Commissioners on Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. Any questions? I'm sorry.
So why is this titled condominium?
I would be happy to address it. Yes. Good morning. Matthew Herf on behalf of the petitioners. So this is an existing development. It's been long-standing, and nothing is changing at this location. It has been, many years ago, the property was developed into various condominiums so that the unit owners actually own their condominium. A lot of the users are doctor's offices and adult daycares and things in the medical realm. So it's just been condoed into various units many years ago. So nothing is changing with this development. Okay. The only reason why we're really asking for this annexation is as properties are annexed into the City of Westminster, they become eligible for annexation. This one kind of checked down the road, and next thing you know, we're eligible for annexation and asked to annex in, and in order to get building permits and water allocations for new uses. But nothing is changing with this property.
There's that word again, water.
Water.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and dry.
Can we do a hand vote on this, or do you want to do roll call?
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
I move we approve the annexation as submitted for Westminster Annexation 89 Net Center. I move we approve it.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Huff?
Yes?
Mr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Swason?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon? Mr. Vice Chair, let the record reflect we have 7 yeas.
Okay, very good.
I'm sorry, 6 yeas.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
I'm gonna get a sign, sorry, public
reading-
comment.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna
Even
get like,
circled it.
you've seen the judges who like hold up signs where they're like 8, 10, whatever. I'm gonna get a sign that just says public comment to hold up. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Any public comment?
She just chastised.
She did, and I deserved it.
You circled. Janice gets away with
Have a
this.
circle on my
Janice has been getting away with this for 3 years, I'm just saying.
I mean, getting called out, but that's okay. That's okay. I deserved it. All right, no public comment, I don't think.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good day.
luck with your
Thank you for your
Board of
time.
Commissioners meeting.
Oh, Thursday. Appreciate it.
All right, public comment, check. All right. Next up, item number 10, concept review of the William Winchester Elementary School Pre-K edition. We have, it looks like we have a special guest with Amy today.
This is the public.
Yeah.
It's so small. There we go. Good morning, Amy Barcroft with Development Review Division. I'm here with a representative from the engineer and also representative from the owner, which is Carroll County Public Schools Board of Education. This is S240031, William Winchester Elementary School Addition Site Plan. We are here today just for a concept site plan review and no action is required. But of course, the commission may consider delegating final approval of the final site plan to the Planning Commission Chair. So we are located here, you can see the site on the ortho, in 70 Monroe Street in Westminster, Maryland. We are close to the intersection of Engler Road and Maryland Route 140. This site is unique in that you can see part of the site is highlighted in green, which shows the zoning for the Carroll County jurisdiction, and part of the site is not highlighted, and that part of the site is actually in the municipality boundary of the city of Westminster. Their zoning layer is also conservation in that site area, but you see that the municipal boundary between the city and county line runs completely through the site and the building as well. So it's kind of a unique project in that because the use is the existing school, the decision was made not to annex the project or the site into the city of Westminster. So we are reviewing this project as a county project in that our technical agencies are reviewing the plan and it's coming before you in the typical fashion. And the city of Westminster has also requested that their planning commission review the project as well. So that will be done in the near future. We have a 5.3 acre parcel. As I said, the zoning in the county and the city are both conservation. The existing elementary school operates on site, and the property is accessed by an entrance on Monroe Street at the adjoining middle school, with driveway exits onto 25th Street and also onto Carroll Street. So there's multiple ways to access this property. This property and surrounding properties are served by public water and sewer with the city of Westminster. And surrounding properties to the site are zoned with a mix of commercial, industrial, and residential. The property is inside the priority funding area and the designated growth area of the city of Westminster. The school was constructed in 1962 and most recently renovated in 2009 with an addition and playground area. Here are some photos of the site. On the left, you'll see the entrance of the school, and on the right, you'll see the soccer fields as you're standing on Carroll Street facing the school. This next slide shows the playground area, which is kind of on the south side of the building, and this is where the proposed addition will be located. The plan proposes a building addition to accommodate new classrooms and improvements to the playground area that needs to be relocated as part of the addition. It's a one-story building. Here you'll see some of the removal of the playground area and the new addition area shown. So again, that addition is going to be added to the side of the building, which is adjacent to the existing playground. It will be 1,955 square feet and have capacity for 2 additional staff and 43 additional students. This will accommodate the pre-K students who attend as a requirement of the Maryland Blueprint program. So no additional bus trips are planned. And as I said earlier, some of the existing playground equipment, trees, and walkways will be removed and relocated to make way for this addition. There is no new proposed signage or lighting other than some building-mounted fixtures. The building is sprinklered, and a new fire hydrant is proposed on site. Stormwater management will be addressed by microbial retention facilities, and concept stormwater management approval has been granted to this project. Grading, site compliance, fire protection, soil conservation have all approved this plan. The site is outside of the jurisdiction of our Bureau of Utilities, but is being reviewed by the City of Westminster Public Works for their utilities. Again, I said earlier, the City of Westminster Planning and Zoning Commission will also be reviewing this plan. Forest conservation and water resource management do not apply to this project. It was found to be consistent with our Carroll County Master Plan by our Department of Planning. This concept site plan was initially submitted to us in January and went through our technical review committee meeting in March. No citizens were present or have submitted comments or questions for this development. This final site plan will be tested for review for adequacy of public facilities. And again, we are just here today as a concept review and no action is required. This is similar to the other school projects you have seen come through before, but certainly if you have any questions, we can answer those for you.
Any questions?
So this is in your capital projects now?
This addition is in the FY '27 state CIP capital request. The county portion has already been funded in the current adopted CIP.
What's the approximate cost of this?
I want to say it's around 2 million plus or minus a couple $100,000, but so, all of these, do you have, yeah, all of these, there's 6 of these pre-K additions that were at the kind of in the same stage. They're all typically just one pre-K classroom. There's a couple of them where we're looking to add a second classroom, but all of those are around the ones with one classroom are around 2 million plus or minus. This one I think is a little higher because actually the existing school is non-sprinkler, but we have to sprinkler this addition, so we have to do some additional work at this one that other schools we didn't have to do. But that's I can get an accurate number to you.
I just need an approximate.
Just approximately around 2 million.
So the only thing I've noticed on the overhead picture, it looks like it has 2 outdoor classrooms currently. Not, the overhead that we had.
Portable classroom buildings?
Portable classrooms, yeah.
Yeah, in the back, there's 2 relocatable classrooms. Each building has 2 classrooms inside of it, so it's actually 4 classrooms.
Yeah.
Those currently have, in an elementary school, there are homerooms, which is where, the kids spend the bulk of the day, but there's also a lot of intervention, special ed resource teachers, English as second language resource teachers, math resource teachers, reading resource teachers. So a lot of those additional staff that work with small groups of students are in the relocatable classrooms out back. Yeah. The school in 1962 didn't have those spaces for those type of, it was, one teacher.
I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. I said it would be nice to have the funding today. We'll get rid of those while you're doing the project, but obviously it's a funding issue, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is a long-term plan to modernize the whole school at that point. That's usually when we try to get rid of the portables at that point.
Okay.
How do you come up with the attendance projection, the 43 students?
So this is one pre-K classroom. It's actually 20 students would be, every pre-K classroom can accommodate 20 students. You can't go over 20 by law. It requires 2 staff members. You know, for 4-year-olds, there's a state requirement that you have, every 10 students, you have to have 1 adult. So it's a teacher and an instructional assistant. The assumption is 20 because generally when we open up a pre-K program or pre-K class, it fills. William Winchester is one of the ones receiving the additions now because it has a larger percentage of eligible families. Pre-K for Blueprint, they raised the level of it's based on free and reduced meals. You know, a calculation basically. They changed it up to 300% of the federal poverty level. It used to be around 200% that you're eligible for pre-K. If a family is eligible for pre-K, we have to provide a space for them. They don't have to, it's not mandatory, but if they want access to pre-K, we have to provide space. What we found is when we open one of these pre-K classrooms and start offering it, the families do fill it up.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Well, do we need New Windsor back? Boy.
Okay. All right, so you don't need any action from us today, right?
Correct. Unless you would like to delegate final approval to the chair. Otherwise, this is just a concept review.
You know, these are commonplace, right? We're seeing these additions as a result of the education changes and things like that. So I think we should delegate this. And Janice is always looking for something to do. You know. So I think we could.
We don't want to disappoint her.
Yeah, we don't want to disappoint her.
I move that we designate it to the chair.
Do we need public comment before we do that?
Yes. See, there you go.
Yeah. See, I'm catching on. So before, let's
Chris?
any public comment?
David, y'all have any thing you want to say?
Okay. All right, so can we get a motion to delegate?
I move that we designate it to the chair.
Delegate it. Second.
Just
Roll call.
Mr. Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Kane,
yes.
Mr. Lester,
Yes.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Swason,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon. Mr. Vice Chair, please let the record reflect we have 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. All right, I don't see Brenda. Calling Brenda. Should we take a recess? About
Yeah.
10-minute recess?
That sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's recess.
And this is.
Let's resume with item number 11, the water resource element discussion. And Brenda's here today to go through a bunch of stuff with us.
Good morning. To
Morning.
make sure it was still morning. But you guys are moving quickly today. So I'll try to keep pace with that. So this is the fourth time I've been in front of you to catch you up on give you the overview of the water resources element and what all's in it and what it means. And so we've already looked at water and wastewater and stormwater and what the needs are. So today we'll look at master plan implications and if you have any other additional discussion. And then we could potentially talk about timeline for 60-day review. It helps if I bring it up, doesn't it? All right, so we found that most of the systems have capacity or can get capacity within the short term. Longer term and regional options are available. That's for water supply. For wastewater, very similar. Most have the capacity or can attain it. Additional capacity with I&I fixes in the short term. Some fixes are available but longer term and more expensive, such as for New Windsor and Union Bridge. And with stormwater, we've already discussed that it's being addressed already through the code and for new development and through our stormwater permit for existing impervious areas. And both the permit and the section already address the total maximum daily loads, which is the pollution reductions needed for the Chesapeake Bay. Let's see if I can get this. So what we're not saying is that we can't grow in the future. Everything can be accomplished with funding, of course. So some work may cost more money if we want to grow in certain areas, but it comes down to what we're willing to invest in order to achieve those future growth goals. So limitations now that we've talked about don't equal no growth in the future. There are regional and other alternatives available when shorter term limitations cannot be overcome. So those are the groundwater wells, the I&I fixes for wastewater. Once they've gone through those, that's probably when we'd start looking at the longer term, such as the regional solutions or the more expensive options. But those options are there if funding can be made available. And as you know, we've looked at each individual system in the county. So there's 8 individual systems. Seven of those are municipal and 1 is the county, right? So each one, needs to consider what direction they want to go based on their limitations. If their limitations are greater than the capacity currently is to serve the 2023 build out. Because remember, everything's based on the 2023 build out, and there have been some changes. So things will change constantly, and they will be needing to constantly reevaluate their numbers. But some of the things that they will need to consider, each individual system that is, when if they do need additional capacity, and I'm not asking you to answer these questions, I'm just saying these are things that they should be asking themselves. So could the limitations be overcome to achieve desired future land uses in the short term or the long term? So maybe not in the short term, but maybe in the long term. Or maybe they can be overcome in the short term. And then what does that mean for their future growth plans? Should the growth area size or intensive uses be decreased to accommodate the system's ability to serve in the short term? So New Windsor, for example, or Union Bridge, if they, even the short term, can address their needs because their needs are significant in terms of funding, what does that mean for their growth plan and the timing of it? So that's something that they would need to consider. Can sources be developed in the long term to accommodate it, if not available in the short term? So we're saying that there are sources available, but timing is going to be an issue, something that needs to be considered. So if, say it's water supply and they exhaust or can't use their short-term options, then they might need to look at regional and long-term options, but then there's a timing thing. So if it's a reservoir, for example, they may still not be able to access that until the county moves forward with a reservoir project. It's available, but it would need to be funded and it would need to be timing. So then how do they adjust their growth plans to consider that? Can improvements be funded where limitations can be more easily overcome? So we already know the longer term things will require significant funding and investment, but shorter term, can they pay for new wells? Can they pay for the I&I fixes? Those things don't cost as much, and it will get them a long way, but it still requires funding, especially some of the towns who have more budgetary issues. And do planned land uses impact water quality in a way that cannot be mitigated? That one's harder to quantify, but in terms of the stormwater part of this, and adding a lot more impervious area, that's something that should be addressed as new development, but it may not address 100%. So just another thing to consider, like in terms of where development goes and where it is in a watershed in relationship to streams and groundwater. So as far as the county master plan goes and the Freedom Comprehensive Plan, how would these limitations impact the Freedom growth area? And I know that's something you'll be looking at in the future, or as part of the master plan, one or the other, however you decide to move forward with that. But how will those limitations, and the limitations there are redundancy, need for water supply, because there's plenty of water, but it needs redundancy. And then the wastewater could become an issue, and we've talked about the options for expanding wastewater and Freedom. That could also affect timing. How do the limitations for the systems in your municipalities impact the county's overall plan for focusing growth in the growth areas and preserving ag and promoting economic development? So for all of that, we need water and we need wastewater, and it's probably going to be in the municipalities. So how do their limitations affect what the county wants to do with the master plan? Something else that you would need to consider while you're working your way through that discussion. And then do the limitations impact the ability to comply with state policies such as affordable housing? So I know it's been brought up that affordable housing is a big issue with the governor and the state legislature now. We saw housing bills the last couple of years. We're going to see housing bills this year. And if with this big push in state policy to increase affordable housing, how does the availability of water and wastewater impact our ability to implement that state policy? So these are some of the things that ways in which this plan could impact what your discussions are going to be when you're talking about what direction to go with the master plan. In terms of the municipalities themselves, something you might want to consider talking about related to water and wastewater is how can the county help the municipalities overcome these limitations? If we really want to achieve our goals of focusing the growth, preserving ag, economic development, all of that, does the county need to invest in helping the municipalities in order to do that? And so there are things that could be done, that we can offer funding for different things like direct financial assistance through the town-county agreements, helping them apply for grants. We can help them with compiling the MDE data that is needed to get some of the grants or get things approved. We can help with project design and construction, accessing counties' long-term contractors and sharing that, sort of how we do with our stormwater management projects for the permit, lending staff expertise, such as what was discussed earlier in terms of planning assistance with New Windsor. And public-private partnerships are an option. May not be something to investigate. May not be something we would want to do, but it may be investigated. So just a couple of quick additional notes on top of that. The summaries that you all received, that will be put into the front of the plan document that you have received as sort of like an executive summary. The WRE will be, these are separate thoughts, but the WRE will be referenced in the master plan, so it will be part of that. And additional action items to implement the WRE could be identified during the master plan process and put in the master plan. So this isn't, this is not the end-all be-all of what could be done to address water and wastewater and other water resources in terms of the master plan process. So the next steps from here would be the 60-day review process, which I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's where the state agencies have, by law, 60 days to review and comment on the draft plan. They provide comments back. They're supposed to be back, after 60 days. During that time, we would hold we'd take public comment concurrently, and also we'll hold a public information meeting during that time for the to answer questions. And then at the end of the 60-day review period, we'll schedule a public hearing. It'll be a joint public hearing of all 9 planning commissions. And I think I mentioned this before. That's why you're not falling off your seats, right? So it can be hybrid and make sure that we get as much participation as we can from all 9 planning commissions on that one day. But all you need to do is listen to comment. There's not give and take in terms of answering questions. So that's logistically, we should be able to handle that. So because we'll have comments during the public, from the public, and we'll have state comments, we expect there absolutely will probably be changes again after that review process and after the public hearing. So this is not our last chance to make changes to this document right now. So after that 60-day review period, I mentioned the public hearing. That would probably be within the month after the 60-day review period ends. And then you'll consider the comments, possibly make revisions if they're needed. And then ultimately you will recommend a plan to the Board of County Commissioners for them to consider. And then they would go through a similar process in terms of reviewing the document, holding a public hearing. They could make changes. They can adopt, deny, modify, remand, whatever action they take. So at this point, I thought you've received the plan document, and we've gone through all of these discussions for the last 4 months. And I was wondering, is there any other additional discussion that you'd like to have before I request you to let me send a draft out for 60-day review period?
The only comment I would have is, listening to New Windsor there, and we've seen it by all the different towns that come in. Westminster, they have staff, and Tawnytown has staff, and Mount Airy has staff, and some of the other towns don't. Does the county have a grant writer that writes grants itself as a county that goes after grants for different things? And do they ever work with the local towns to kind of do that stuff? Because I sit on a nonprofit and I know how much money they get in state grants a year, and I'm kind of dumbfounded, and I'm like, it's kind of, they sit in a better area. They have much more influence in the state of Maryland. But just a question, and is that something they do? Because I think New Windsor originally got grant money when they built their first wastewater treatment plant, because Elliott was on, and I think Elliott got some funding for them and stuff like that. But
right, yeah, our Management and Budget Department does have a grant writing office that can provide grant writing assistance and oversight and administration for grants. And then we also have a grant writer within the Department of Planning and Land Management who is dedicated to projects, getting grants for our stormwater projects. So I couldn't tell you whether the management and budget also would assist municipalities, but that would be something we could look into and could be discussed if that helps to implement what we're trying to achieve.
Because I know a guy that sits on Westminster Town Council, and he says they have a really good person, they have a really good lobbyist and a grant writer, and they seem to get pretty decent funding for being in Carroll County from the state of Maryland, so.
Because we've been very successful with our stormwater program. But that's a different set of grant sources than would be, well, maybe not for some of these water and water resource projects, but for maybe other projects that towns would need grants for.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
That's,
The worst part of it is no one has any money now, so they wasted it all.
Yeah. Well, until January, maybe. So Brenda, what's the tier or the hierarchy of water before you get to the funding requests and things like that, and the bigger projects? So groundwater obviously is number one, right? Go after your groundwater, and then what's the next layer, and the next before you get to recycling plants and things like that? What's the hierarchy?
I can't say there is a specific hierarchy because it's going to be different for each system. They haven't all had success with groundwater. Freedom is primarily, sourced by the Liberty Reservoir. We have wells, and we need to look into getting them online just for redundancy. But as far as the source goes, it's, we have that water. It just depends on the system and the circumstances surrounding their geographical area and their budget and what they've done already in the past. Groundwater is probably cheaper than a lot of other options, and that's why they go for that first. But as you know, Westminster could have potentially gone for more wells, but opted for a project that could provide more water, at one point, at one source, longer term. So they have the reservoir, and now they've added or in the process of adding the pure water plant. So for them, that was a decision to not continue with groundwater. Let's, adding those, and let's pursue this because we're going to get more water, ultimately longer term.
Yeah, groundwater is very particular to your area in the county. On my side of New Windsor, our water is very limited. On the other side of New Windsor, where Ralph's got a farm over there, my brother has a farm, and then the town owns all that ground out by Barrasocks. Seems to be pretty good water out there. But the problem of it is, like they were talking about their pipeline. I know a lot about that because it runs right through my uncle's farm. And I had conversations with Jack Coe 20 years ago about it when we put a new fence in because he had to come down and find where the line was. Of course, it runs right along the stream all the way down. That's why the cost is so expensive to replace it, because it's all in a floodplain. And of course, when they priced putting a new one in, they priced it putting it back where the right-of-way is, not looking at going somewhere else. But
In groundwater, the other problem with the wells is it's sort of unpredictable. I mean, not only whether you'll be successful, but how much appropriation you'll get from MDE. So, with something like the pure water plant, they've already worked through all this stuff to figure out this is how much water they can get out of it. So when they invest, they know what they're getting.
So how did, we have some wastewater treatment plants and recycling things going on. How did Westminster, how did right up there off, not Manchester, Hampstead, and other municipalities, how'd they get money to build these treatment plants?
So, of course, the county owns the wastewater treatment plant in Hampstead, and we are pretty much capped at the 900,000 gallons per day there.
So, and how did the county come up with the money for that,
For,
building that plant?
that was decades and decades ago. I'm not sure. I mean, that's a plant that's been there for a very long time.
Well, I'm saying taxes, property taxes.
I mean, we heard from Union Bridge, I mean, that's what their plan is that they're go to the point where someone else builds them a new one.
Yeah.
I mean, but at some point that happened at Hampstead, and why did that happen? That would be a good thing for us to know.
Yeah.
It's like, how did it, we know all about the Freedom area, that's our growth area,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Hampstead, why does the county own Hampstead's wastewater
Right.
treatment plant?
Right.
I said that was probably at least 50 years ago. But that's, I mean, it's a good question.
Been from that area at that time.
Well, I'm just saying, as we're building out this plan, and water is a constant, if we had, Daphne, what are those things called when you write the words and some words are bigger than the others on the board? How
The
many
word
times
cloud?
a year?
Oh, yeah, like
You
a
had
word
a
cloud.
board like that, water would be like, a 3x5 with all the discussions we've had over the,
Yeah.
particularly the last year or so. And so I think, this is, to me, this is really, really critical for our next, for our 10-year plan. How are we going to deal with that? So many things are attached to it.
It is, and it just seems like, we're mandated to do all this, like affordable housing, we're mandated.
Right.
So why didn't somebody think about what would it take to fulfill that mandate? And the first thing in order would be allow municipalities to expand by providing water and sewage.
Right.
So where should the funding be?
I even wrote myself a note when you're saying affordable housing.
So where should the funding come? So wouldn't that be the first priority, to
Yeah.
provide affordable housing?
Affordable housing.
Provide the infrastructure to make it work.
Right.
And we're not
If you're
doing
gonna have affordable
that.
housing, you have to have water, and the water, whatever's
Yeah.
involved there, that has to be paid for or part of this affordable housing project
Yeah.
that the state's mandating. So,
Well, and the problem with it is Richard can attest to this, with us, is just saying, you can't build affordable housing without water and sewer, because with the MDE's requirements and how big a plot has to be for, septic and all that type of stuff.
Right.
But you can say to the developers, well, you're gonna pay for it, but the developers are not gonna pay for it, they're gonna then
And it's
add
not-
all that money and then some under
and
the
it's
cost of
not
the
affo-
house,
it's
and
not
then it's no
affordable
longer
anymore.
affordable.
right.
But then.
Well, I mean, that's the big problem. I
It's
mean,
just a catch-22, but I know with a lot of stuff we do, like, come by where we're down in the city, is, basically, like Port Covington, Kevin Plank said, I'll redevelop this land, but you, Baltimore City, you're putting the infrastructure in. And Baltimore City did, at the tunes of tens of millions of dollars, but, you gotta come up with the money to do it. I mean, they did all the infrastructure, and whether or not, obviously, Carroll County's in position to do that is completely different,
Right.
but that's usually how the developers, the big guys, get it to work. You
Well-
pay for it, we'll build it.
like one of the things that Ralph's brought up about the county owns all these easements that have the water recovery, and of course, we never have said really, why have we not used any of that yet? Because that's the big thing with MDE, is you have to have the land overlay to have the water recovery area and it's all based on acreage and the land types and soil types and everything else, but you have to have that as a municipality, and where do they get those rights without owning all the land? County owns a lot of those water recovery rights, or at least, what is it, a third of the water recovery off those lands? Well, we did that.
Now
What good is
Yeah.
it now?
Now
The
what?
county spent millions and millions of dollars to pay extra on those agricultural land preservation things to own that third. Now, how do we use them? Because I know MDE changed everything somewhere along the way about, 8 or 10 years ago.
Well, it's not necessarily related to the water recharge easements, but they did change how a municipality can get additional water beyond their owned and controlled, which is either in their service area or land they own. And it is not easy to pass the test for some of the municipalities because it's based on your priority funding area as of 2000. So, I mean, that was 25 years ago, and yet the state's still basing it, what you can get on what you need for that area. So they changed some things, but they didn't make it really any easier to get additional money. I mean, additional water appropriation through that process. And that was 2008 that was adopted.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about Annapolis. It's kind of, you know, you look at just October 1st, correct me if I'm wrong, there was 450 new laws that went into effect. I mean, at this point, you have to be inventing things like, how do we need 450 more new laws? But then you look at the same thing with MDE, you say, got to build affordable housing, but we have all these restrictions that enable building affordable housing.
Impossible.
To just, you can't do it. So it's a constant battle of passing laws that, you know, usurp other laws, but you can't do this with this law because this law is there, but then they write this law. It's just a catch-22. It's absurd.
If I could just mention that this is a concern that we've brought up multiple times, every time we have an opportunity to put it in front of state officials. We've had a few secretaries come out, the Secretary of the Department of Housing and Community Development, Maryland Department of the Environment. We met with some folks during the MACO conference over the summer. We're just always trying to put this issue in front of them and highlight some of the challenges that we have locally. But some of the feedback that we've heard is that that's not new information. We're not the only jurisdiction who's raising this, and the state is well aware of some of the contradictions, I think, of certain objectives within different departments. I was just at an event last week with the comptroller, her office has been doing a number of reports related to different topics and the economy. They just recently released their report on housing and the economy. And I will send that information to you so you can take a look at it. During that event, there was the secretary from the Department of Housing and Community Development was there, and fully recognized that there needs to be better coordination between all these different state agencies so that we can address particularly the infrastructure issues and how it limits our ability to address the affordable housing question. So I'll share that information with you, but I just want to make sure you know that kind of behind the scenes, as we're able, we're always raising this issue, bringing it to the fore with any state agencies that we have conversations with.
Great. Good. Any other discussion? So, you're looking for a motion from us to send
Right there.
for the
And I put
approval?
one on the screen if you
Oh.
need some help.
Oh.
I'll go for
That's what
that
you
one,
said.
'cause
It's
this one I can handle.
Right there.
Talk about railroad, let's do this.
I move the Carroll County Planning Commission give approval to send the draft water resources element to the state for the 60-day review and comment process. I think I got it.
Did well on that.
I
Blind
second.
squirrel finds a nut every now and then, right?
I second.
Mr. Huff?
Yes.
Mr. Kane?
Yes.
Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Stoyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Abstain.
Mr. Vice Chair, please let the record reflect we have 6 yeas and 1 abstain.
Thank you, and we didn't do public comment before the roll call. but
There's no public.
looking around. I think I can get a pass on that one.
Just this one,
Just
just
that
for
one.
you.
So, okay. Now, last but not, well, second to last, any general public comment about today's meeting? Hearing none, seeing none. Okay. We'll move on to item number 13.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in
Did you read
favor?
that somewhere?
Aye.
Did you read
Thanks,
that
everybody.
somewhere?
Thank you.
Thank you.